Hi, everybody, and welcome to Be in the Know. It seems like it's been a month, or well, maybe it has been a month since I've done one of these, but I'm excited to be back. I had my little fight with the silent menace, and that's over, and we're going to get going. We got a big year of Be in the Know. Tonight, I'm so very, very excited to have somebody who I'm kind of, this is a secret thing here, Lance. I'm kind of having the super operator series. I didn't name it that because I don't want to label one person over another, but you know what? In all reality, you are one of the super operators. I mean, Lance started, I think, his major ascension into the table games rank as the director of table games at, I think it was the Trump property in Indiana. And then a little stint at Fantasy Springs out west. And then I believe it was 12 years ago, you moved to this property, and this thing's it's a monster property. And some of you may not have heard about it, and Lance will explain what goes on at it, but it's FireKeepers up in Michigan. Lance Allen, welcome to Be in the Know.
Thank you, Benny. I appreciate that. I'm glad to be here with you tonight.
So Lance, I asked the same question. Hopefully, it depends on, unless you're not a director or a VP or somebody in the industry. How in the world did you get into this business? Run us through that.
Wow. I got into this business when I was 21 years old, and I started off as a craps dealer in New Jersey. And worked my way, learning the games there, and working my way up through the ranks, and moved around a little bit in Atlantic City, and I opened the Playboy Hotel and Casino there, and I almost hate to say the year when that was, but let's just say it was in the early 80s. And from there, I moved. Actually, I stayed there until that property closed, and then moved over to the Trump Taj Mahal and opened that property, and stayed there for a number of years. I think it was 96 when I finally left New Jersey and moved out to Indiana as at that particular point, I was a shift manager. I'd worked my way up from dealer up through the pit manager to shift manager in New Jersey, and moved out to Indiana and spent about 8 years out there, then moved to California. Did about a 6-year stint out in Fantasy Springs, as you previously mentioned, before moving to my current property at FireKeepers in Michigan.
So FireKeepers is an amazing property. I stopped there and checked the property out when I was up there, when I was working for Jack Entertainment, and I had the Greektown property. I shot out there and took a look at your property and Gun Lake. I was reading a very interesting tidbit when I was doing some research on FireKeepers. You guys got this huge sign out in front, big, gigantic sign. And I found out it only takes $17. It's a very efficient LED sign. It only takes $17 a day to run. So for those who haven't been to FireKeepers, Lance, give us walk us through, give us a little tour, a description of FireKeepers operations.
Well, we are a tribal entity. We are owned by the Nottawasapi Huron Band of the Potawatomi Indians, and we're located, as you said, in Battle Creek, Michigan. We have just about 3,000 slot machines, 70 tables, a 26-table poker room, along with a bingo operation. We have currently a 200-room hotel, and we're 242-room hotel, and we are in the process of building a second 200-room tower, which will open later this year. We have a sports book on property. We have a tap house on property. We have several restaurants, ranging everything from a coffee shop up to fine dining, which is our Nibi restaurant.
Now you guys kicked it during this pandemic, really. It seemed like them Western Michigan properties, you didn't lose a whole lot of ground, did you?
No, we didn't. We were very fortunate that we were closed for 2 months, however, from March through to the end of May. as most of the country was shut down at that point. But when we opened back up, we have people coming into the building, as well as distancing within. And we closed our poker room, we closed our bingo operation, and only reopened with table games and slot machines, socially distanced every other slot machine and every other spot at the tables. And we did a very good job of making sure that we had people, extra additional staff out on the floor, wiping things down, so that we had a presence that our guests could see that we took their safety seriously. And we were doing everything physically possible that we could to make sure that we protected both them and the staff.
Now, do you still have some operations down, or are you fully reopened?
We still have our bingo operation down. Our poker operation is still down, even though we're getting ready to gear up to try to get that reopened in the near future.
Yeah, I think we're going to get poker reopened in Ohio, hopefully next week. We're hearing some good things coming out of the State House, and hopefully we'll get back up and going. So you mentioned that FireKeepers is a Native American operation, and I think Fantasy Springs is also a Native American. Am I correct about that?
Yes, it is.
So I would say you're our resident expert, at least tonight it is, because I know I don't know everything about it. My first step into it now is working for the Seminole Tribe of Florida with Hard Rock International. So I'm going to get a good taste of it. So give me, I always like to talk about jurisdictional differences and like tribal versus a standard commercial casino. Give us some idea of what's the differences. When you step into, what should you expect as a new director in a tribal gaming operation?
I think one of the things that I've seen from the tribal perspective is that the ownership is definitely more present on a regular basis. Also, at least based upon my personal experience and others that I know firsthand, that there seems to be more of a interaction with ownership. They want to get to know who works for them. It's not uncommon to see tribal council walking around the floor. It's not unusual to see tribal members, walking through the casino playing, or just using the facility as any other guest would. It's not uncommon for in our case for any of them. Well, this was pre-COVID, I should say, because now during COVID, everyone's doing a very good job of staying away as much as possible. But prior to that, you'd look up and you could see any one of the council members standing in your doorway, just hi, how are you? What's going on today? And just striking up a conversation and sitting down. And I never saw that on the corporate side of things.
It seems to me, talking to a lot of folks, Paul Mallow and some of them really have been deep into this. It's a personal trust. They want to know the people that are working for them, and not only on a let's run your background and this and that. They want to be able to look you in the eye and feel that they can trust you with their operation, because realistically, it's their skin in the game, not no just big corporation. It's their own skin in the game.
It is a family operation, and you are becoming part of the family. And you're absolutely right at that point that they want to understand who you are, and they want to be able to be part of, you want to be able to be part of that family.
I remember, yeah, I can see that 100%. And if they don't feel comfortable with you, you're probably not going to be around for long. So Lance, you're very successful in this industry. I mean, you're known as a major contributor. You appeared on several panels at the Table Games Conference. You're sought after to do some of these webcasts and seminars we've seen so many of in the last year. What's Lance Allen's key to success in table games?
Being able to, I think it's part of it is adaptability. When I think a lot of us, when we start, we think we know everything. And I think in order to be successful, you have to be able to be humble and realize we don't know everything. We have to be able to listen and learn try new things. Some things are going to succeed and do very well. Other things, they may not. And we just have to be willing to accept that fact. Hey, I made a mistake. I tried something, didn't work, and you pick up and you move on from it.
Yeah, I think that the saying fail often and fail quickly comes into play here, because I mean, if you're not trying new things and not doing, you're never going to go anywhere. You know, you're just going to have the same operation, and people's palate and taste in table games change so quickly, you know. Right. And you gotta be one step ahead of it. And if you're afraid to make change and you're afraid to fail, you're not going to be very successful. So tell me now, you use a lot of vendors like we all do. What games do you have on the floor now? Are you a side games man? Do you have Ultimate Texas Hold'em and that, or do you dabble into some of these Galaxy or AGS games, or what's your floor look like?
My floor actually, I have a mix of things on the floor. I have some product from side games, is Ultimate Texas Hold'em. I've got some 3-card poker. I've got Crazy 4 poker, but I've also got some AGS product on the floor. I've got some of their, I had some of their bonus spin product. I have some of their Super 4 product on the floor. I also have some Galaxy product on the floor. I think that in order to be successful, you have to be able to offer your guest a variety. I think that, a property our size, we're fortunate enough that we have the ability to have more than one vendor on the floor. So our players have an opportunity to try new things. You'll have a player come in and it's like, oh, do you have this game? I was just at such and such a property, and either we may have tried it and it didn't work, or, we may be in the process of actually getting it, put on the floor. But it's interesting that at least in my case, my players are not afraid to tell me what they like and what they don't like.
And that's so true. When I first came to Ohio, the jurisdiction was very restricted. Like Galaxy wasn't licensed, AGS wasn't licensed, so you're kind of stuck with the product of whoever's paid the huge fee. And like in Ohio, it's 25 and 50,000, I think, to get a vendor's license there. You go through a long scrutiny, and a lot of vendors just, at first didn't, until the jurisdiction got a little seasoning to it, they didn't want to get involved for that kind of money. So, but you're absolutely right about your player will tell you really quickly. We're opening a property in Gary, and we were discussing game mix, and I said, don't worry about it. I said, put what you think's best with your competitive set. And I said, within 6 months, your players are going to determine what your game mix looks like. You're not going to determine what your game mix looks like. And, when I'm bouncing around there for Jack Entertainment with Greektown and the Cleveland property, you find out how certain games in certain jurisdictions fly and other ones don't have a chance.
That's very true.
Like if I would take Perfect Pairs out of Detroit, I would have forced all the players out the door. Their Perfect Pairs has got such a lock on that, and I haven't seen it nowhere else. Nowhere else is that side bet so strong. But if I would have taken it off the games, I would have sent everybody to MGM or Motor City. There's just no doubt about it. So you're so right. They're going to tell you, and I don't know what it is over there in Western. But I don't know if I don't even think I've seen as much Perfect Pairs over there. But it just, you know what I'm saying. It all depends on the jurisdiction. It's just like Crazy 4 poker is awesome in Cincinnati. I could almost go to a third unit, but in Cleveland, it failed. It failed miserably. It just wouldn't go. And it's not very active in Detroit either. I think there was one unit of Crazy 4 poker, and now it's gone. And you're telling me you guys have Crazy 4 poker and it's fairly successful over there, right?
I do. It is. I have one unit on the floor, and but to your point, it's interesting because some of the things that we opened with, I might have had 2 or 3 units of, or maybe only one of, but as the players start to either like or dislike a game, you end up taking product off the floor, or you end up adding additional product to the floor.
Now, I understand if it's a new jurisdiction, you just got to throw something out there and see if it sticks. But anybody who goes to like open a property, they say they'd open a place 5 miles down the road from you, and they don't come and do a shop or a competitive set study. You just can't pick everything up from Atlantic City and bring it to Western Michigan. It's not.
It doesn't work that way.
It doesn't work. And so many people try that, you know. And I mentored a guy for a long time, and he really thought I just did everything right, you know. And I'm telling him, I mean, and he just took everything we had when he got the chance, and he failed. I mean, he failed to begin with. Quickly made a rebound, but you know, folks, listen to Lance. Listen to me. Jurisdictionals are different. Adapt. You know, be ready to adapt, and let the player tell you what they want to play. So let's talk about what influenced Lance Allen? What made you what you are today? What kind, when you was coming up through this great casino business, what caught your eye? I mean, it was just like a tornado for me. I caught on. I had so many things I was into coming up through here, but what really caught your interest and made you who you are?
I think a lot of it had to do with when I started in the business, the people that I was fortunate enough to break in with. As I said, I opened the Playboy property in Atlantic City, and that property had such a mix of people. Playboy at that particular point in the late 70s, early 80s had casinos in, well, many countries. So they brought in managers from the UK. They brought in people from the Bahamas. They brought, and from their own properties, as well as industry veterans from Las Vegas and other jurisdictions that they brought in. So we had a real melting pot at this property. And for a young kid, right out of school and just trying to absorb all this business, it was in the 80s, it was so much flash and dash and so much going on. But I was fortunate that people liked me, and I don't mean that from a standpoint that they were willing to give me advice, and I was smart enough to listen. And when somebody realizes that, they're willing to give you a little bit more advice. And seeing all these different people, how they traveled all over the world just from this industry, I thought that was pretty interesting. I'm like, wow, I could go wherever I want to, just if I'm good at what I do. I said, this is something I should apply myself to. Let's see where I can go, what I can do with it.
And that seems to be the you hear the story time and time again. It's the guys who are around the right people and were willing to be a sponge and soak up everything that they heard really prospered. And that's one of the reasons I've started Swell is because I don't think that mentoring and that time to mentor in this world of meeting after meeting and the way we do business it doesn't happen like it used to. I remember I was fortunate enough, I got out to Vegas right after the mob kind of got shoved out. Mm-hmm. And, you didn't just immediately get one of the good gigs. You had to put your time in. I remember going to the Mirage. I think I had like 9 or so years of experience dealing craps. And, I went there and the guy says, kid, you pretty good audition. He says, but, you haven't been dealing long enough. I'm like, I haven't been dealing long enough. Yeah. How long? He says, come back and see us when you have 10 years. So anyway, I took a job out on State Line, Nevada, near Primm, and going towards, on the road to Los Angeles. And that was a place where like every bust out that ever was, they'd already been through every job, ended up. But these were some of the most talented guys. They just had a lot of demons, They either had a gambling problem, or they had a drinking problem, or they had a drug problem. But man, did they know the casino business. Mm-hmm. And they were willing to share, and they were willing to tell stories. And me, just being, oh God, I was just soaking that stuff up. And what a difference it made. And it made it so easy for me. And I want people to have the opportunity to soak up that kind of knowledge. And anything we can share, I'm always. Anybody, I always say this, if you're afraid to give your knowledge away, you know what, you're probably in the wrong position, because
Sure.
it's going to do nothing but benefit you in the long run. So here's a question that I was thinking about today, and I thought, man, that Lance out. This is a great question for him. What change or innovation did you see coming up through these decades? And you said, man, I wished I'd have jumped on that right off the bat. And you kind of had to, get on the bandwagon after the fact. Can you think of one of them?
Wow, that's a good question. I think if I had an opportunity, I think that probably the progressive games, when they first started to come out, I think that was something that I would have liked to have been able to get into sooner, that not really understanding what they were really going to be able to offer us. And it's kind of like what I had said before about, having to be willing to take that chance and break out of the norm. Well, it's not a blackjack game, it's not a craps game, it's not a roulette game, it's not a baccarat game. That's when I broke in, those were the 4 core games. That's what we had. And all these carnival games started to come up, and then they started to put progressives on them. And you started to ask yourself, what is this thing? Is this really going to do anything? Is it really going to? It's a gimmick. That's what it was. It was a gimmick game. But all these years later, those gimmicks, they keep building on them, and they keep getting better and better.
Yeah, I think a lot of us would have liked to got on this side bet bandwagon a lot sooner. Even my good friend Bill Zender, he fought that trend for years, but then even him, when he put the pencil on paper and did the math, the slowing down the game for the side bets, the high house advantages and everything. If you got the right side bet and it's getting that 25% plus participation that we need to get there, man, can they make a difference in your blackjack hole? That's just unbelievable.
Well, let's be honest. As you said, once you put the pen to paper, the math doesn't lie.
No.
We may be a little hesitant or reluctant, but if we're willing to open our eyes and open our minds to that fact, it's like, wow, this works. But you're right. Then you've got to find that right partner. Which side bet works best for your property? What are you trying to accomplish? And in some cases, you may have multiple side bets on there. And again, which ones complement each other? Because the last thing you want to do is slow the game down. You've got to be able to find something that's going to work with the flow of the game and still be able to give the player the opportunity to either bet on the front end, bet on the back end, and feel like they still have an option, just on top of just the traditional wager for that game.
I got a thing I call sweet spot yielding. And I think that was something I wished I would have been able to understand a little quicker. And I think I would have charged great whatever I'd have done, but I'd know I'd have made more money for my property. And what I mean by sweet spot yielding is where you set your game's base price to a point where the players still play the side bets. They still get into the prop box. Some people get that big volumes and they'll just immediately blow the limits up, and they don't look at the layout. And here, all the players were betting $15 and filling the prop box, and now you move it to $25 and you blow them right all down to the pass line where they have the best advantage. And they don't, and it's like I try to train my managers, like, if you look at a $10 game and there's 5 people playing the side bet, why would you ever move it to 15? Because I don't want 3 $15 players who aren't playing a side bet. I was making more with the other 5 playing the 5 side bet. So the sweet spot, finding that sweet spot where you can still bring it up as high as you can bring it, yield the game, get as many decisions you can, but still keep the people in them side bets. That is a talent that I wished I would have got 10 years sooner. I'd have been the king of the world. It'd be like.
Well, let's be honest about it, Benny. I think that part of that is it was difficult for, I'll say, us, because we've been in the business for as long as we have, to look at the math. So much of what we did over the years was by gut feel.
Yeah. All ingrained, yeah.
What we were taught was, hey kid, you see that over there? That's what you should be looking for. And if that hair on the back of your neck wasn't standing up, then everything was good. And now all of a sudden you come up and somebody's going to slide a piece of paper underneath you and it's got all these numbers on it. And like, what am I supposed to do with this? So again, part of that was us adapting to change.
Yeah, one of the first thing one of the old dogs told me, he says, listen, son, he says, as long as it's my cards and my dice on the game, we're going to win. And that's not the truth. We can beat ourselves. We can continue to employ a bad customer service dealer, right? That will chase players off the game. We can make bad decisions on, like I said, we can bring in, okay, you got perfect pairs on your game, I'm gonna wipe them all out and put some. We can beat ourselves. Just because we got our cards and our dice don't mean necessarily we're going to win. And I think all you out there, you probably got something you could have jumped on sooner. But yeah, I loved your answer to it. So what's the biggest change you've seen during this COVID time? I mean, you talked about adaptability, and you know what? It's amazing. It's amazing how well the players adapted. And it's amazing how fast we reacted and did the things we had to do to open the doors back up. So what's the biggest change you've seen that was brought up?
While we were closed, we had executive meetings in our ballroom. We had banquet tables set up in a big square. Everybody's 6 to 8 feet apart, and we're sitting around this table, trying to come up with procedures and what are we going to do when we reopen. Even though we don't have a date to reopen, we still have to put something in place so that when we get the green light, that we can hit the ground running. I think one of the biggest things is, as we talked about earlier, is just that you walk around the casino now and everybody's got a mask on. I mean, this was something before that just you would never see. If you did, you knew that person had a severe medical problem, and they still wanted to come into the casino. But now, if you don't have a mask on, you can't come in. But I think that, as well as the fact that we have to limit the number of people that come in the building. So in order to accomplish the social distancing thing, it's difficult. This past New Year's Eve was very strange for me because I was on the floor looking around the casino and I had room to walk. There weren't, six people at every table and 5 deep trying to get in on a game. It felt more like a Wednesday evening than, New Year's Eve. And, for being in this business for as long as I have, for as many New Year's Eves as I've worked, that just was so strange. But, by the time midnight rolled around, I actually had to walk around and looked at some of my managers and I said, I could kind of get used to this, in a strange way.
Yeah, we closed at 10 o'clock that night. And that, what you talk about, strange, man, that was, we're sending people out the door at 10 o'clock on New Year's Eve. That was really, what do you think will stick around? I mean, here's the funny thing is, 2 years ago, a guy sits down at my blackjack table with a mask off. I'm gonna tell him, take it off. You can't sit here on my, but I think that, if somebody wants to wear a mask to protect themselves when they're sick, it's going to be there forever now. How can I have somebody wear a mask for almost 2 years and then tell them they can't wear it no more? What do you see sticking around?
I agree. I think masks are going to stick around because there are a lot of people, whether they've had the vaccine or not, going forward, everybody has to do what they feel is best for themselves. And if you feel it's best for you to wear a face shield, to wear a mask, to wear gloves when you go out in public, then you've got to do what you have to do to protect yourself. But I think that there are going to be a lot of people who are still going to choose to wear the masks. In this country, it's hard to understand that. But if you've had the opportunity to travel to any of the the Asian countries, they've been wearing masks over there. For years, and they don't think anything of it. So I think that, that's probably going to be the biggest thing that's going to stick around. I find it interesting that, as we've gone through this, when you look at the biggest things that we can do to protect ourselves as a society, besides social distancing, is to wash our hands. But wait a minute, isn't this something our parents taught us to do when we were kids?
Yes, there was.
And how did something so basic become so important to our existence?
And it's amazing how simple some of these procedures are, that they do curve, flatten the curve. And, way back in, I think it was April of last year, when I'm sitting home here and doing some research and all this, I wrote an article on LinkedIn about US versus the Asian countries.
Mm-hmm.
And because since I think it was SARS or whatever, they've been wearing masks for 20 years. Anytime
Correct.
they get sick, to protect each other. And you could see the counts, that the infection count and everything was just, it was minor in these countries like Korea, Japan, even China, where all this started, ended up with very little damage, right? Collateral damage. But
Absolutely.
here, an obstinate country like the US, that, I just ain't doing that. I'm not wearing a mask. I'm not going to do this. You're not going to tell me what to do. And look at the damage done. And I think we could have shortened this time that nothing's going to shorten it without this vaccine, which we've been very lucky. And if anything political went right, it was the Operation Warp Speed. It got this vaccine to us so quickly, and it's going to save so many lives. The hospitalizations in the state of Ohio, just to look at them in the last 3 weeks, right? We went from a hospitalization of 4,600 COVID patients to yesterday it was 719.
That's
So
huge.
you can tell that vaccine is starting to make a difference. And because most of the hospitalizations were the older folks,
Mm-hmm.
and most of them have been we're all the way down to in the 60s of getting the vaccine. So it's a good thing. And let me tell you what, this bad boy is nothing to play with. This virus tried to attack me every way it possibly can, but when it finally figures out there's no weakness, it backs off. But boy, I tell you what, it tried. One day, Thursday, 2 weeks ago, I thought I was totally recovered. I know.
Thought you're good to go.
I'm good to go, And then Friday, I'm telling you what, this thing goes, oh, take that. You think you're bad? Okay, 17 hours I spent in bed. My head was just trying to come off my shoulders, and it felt, Lance, like I was carrying you around on my back. I could not get out of bed. I couldn't. And then the next day, Saturday, I never had another symptom. And it was crazy.
It affects everyone differently, but it does. When it hits you hard. From what I've been told from the people who've had it, they've said that, to your words, this is no joke. This is serious.
No, like I said, I had mild symptoms, and thank God and all this, but man, I wouldn't wish it on my worst enemy.
Mm-hmm.
So Lance, anything else you got for the viewers out there that we haven't covered?
It's hard to, it's interesting, you and I have been, we've been in this business for a while. We've been able to see the ups and downs, and you talk about the stories from some of the people who've gone before us, and being able to pass that knowledge on to those that we work with now. And I think that's important, that people understand that this industry can be a career, not just a job. It gives you, I've been fortunate. I've been able to go, I've born and raised on the East Coast, was able to, because of this industry, be able to go all the way out to California and then halfway back across the country again. And I've had opportunities to go other places and actually other countries. And that's all because of this industry. And I think there's a lot of people that just don't realize, the opportunities that are out there if you just apply yourself.
Oh yeah, we were, when we started, it was limited, right? It's either Lang City or Las Vegas. That was it.
That was it.
And I remember when the compacts were being signed in California, everybody said, "Oh, that's it. It's over for gaming in Las Vegas," and but it's just gotten bigger and bigger and bigger, and there's more places to go, and there's more opportunities because the people who put the time and effort into us are not out there. The saturation of this, the spread of this industry has been too quick. And if you get a chance to jump on somebody's coattails, do it. Learn what you can, and the opportunities are endless. I mean,
they definitely are.
That's all we can say, right? I mean, we can tell you what's out there, and you know what, the rest is up to you. So yes. Lance Allen, I want to thank you so much for being on Be in the Know. Great guest. Hopefully we get together, maybe some of these conferences and things.
Look forward to it. Absolutely.
We'll go this. I think Aniga is on.
Yeah.
I think Richard Marcuson is putting on some kind of table games conference in the fall. Hopefully that goes. It looks like it's going to be a giant. And
it does. I saw what Richard was doing. Yes.
Yeah, it's just growing and growing and growing, and I hope it really. I know he's looking for a venue right now, and I'm just be interested when all that comes to. And on G2E, who knows about G2E? It may not, right? So
well, I think it'll be interesting to see what will happen because we're talking at this point we're talking about fall, so between vaccination and people hopefully as a society we get closer to a herd immunity, and I think that we may be able to start to get together once again shortly.
Oh man, I can't wait. I look so forward to them things every year. So Lance, again, thanks for being on Be in the Know, and everybody out there, if you look down here in this video, you're going to see a little subscribe button. Big deal. If you subscribe to this thing, the channel grows. I get more people and more chances to have more shows out there for you. So hit the subscribe button. If you like this video, put a comment in there. Tell Alan, tell Lance how to run his business. And you can tell me how to run my business too, and if maybe you can tell us something we're ready to learn.
Absolutely, open to all options.
That's right. All right, thanks again for being on the show, Lance. Everybody, we'll see you next week.